I can always get excited about a project if I've got Post-it notes, highlighters, pens. I mean, anytime I can go to, a stationery store, I'm like a little kid. Most
Yeah.
people are going to Nordstrom. I'm going to a stationery store.
Well, you're a good time.
Girl, listen here.
Party on Friday night. Let's go to Staples.
There's nothing boring about this, girl.
Welcome to the Wish I'd Known Then podcast. I'm Sarah Rosette.
And I'm Jamie Albright. And this week on the show we have
Sharmyn McGraw.
Yeah, we do. And it was such a fun interview. She is very fun.
Yes, she is. And she has some really good insights on planners. And she's dyslexic. And we talked about how she overcame that, her fear of people reading her work and seeing her work, and how she overcame that and has gone on to write mysteries, tons of nonfiction. And she has these organizers. And I thought it was really interesting that they are more for people who are pantsers or discovery writers.
Yeah, which I love.
Because I don't think there's much out like that for people who are discovery writers. So that's coming up. What have you got going on?
Chris, just holiday stuff. Pretty much just sort of taking the month of December pretty easily. And not that that's been any different than the rest of the year probably, but, I've been traveling a lot, so I'm home. And actually I'm at Alexa's right now because she's an event planner and she has a big event. So it's a 2-day install. So I'm helping her with that, but thinking about next year and what I want it to look like and how I'm going to achieve that, and doing some reflecting and just kind of preparing for next year. Yeah, that's about it. But just holiday stuff mostly,
Me too. I'm not trying to do a whole lot of writing. I am trying to get ready to outsource my inbox. And so I've spent a lot of time this week, like going through, cleaning things out, moving folders to the archive thing, that I don't use anymore. And now I'm like, wow, this is kind of like when you clean up your house and you get ready to move and you're like, wow, why didn't we do this?
Why did we
early?
live like this? Yeah.
Why didn't we live like this instead of getting it ready to, So now I'm like, okay, it's under control, but I'm still going to hand it off.
Yeah.
But it's just a lot of prep work getting ready to do that.
I was telling Alexa last night, one thing I know I have to do, but I'm not going to even tackle it until January, is things are just kind of a mess. After 2 years of really not taking care of some things, my email list is a bit of a mess. My automations are a little bit of a mess. Business stuff. And it probably isn't going to take a ton of time to fix, but it seems overwhelming because it seems like everything.
Yes.
But I do know that has to be done before I can really do much else, because it's lived in a bit of a state of neglect for a while now. So, but it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay, y'all.
It's going to be fine. And if you just do one thing, if you just tackle one project.
Yes.
And I've given myself permission to not worry about writing this week. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to get all this stuff off my plate if I can. And it's way more involved than you think it's going to be, like when you get started. But little things can really add up.
Anyway, but just for those out there that are feeling overwhelmed or feeling like I don't do enough or I haven't done enough, or it's okay, y'all. It's okay. And we're going to be okay. And the world is not going to fall apart. And we are not bad business people because we're unorganized.
I think every business owner feels like, oh, I could optimize more of my business, or something is a mess. I need to fix it. Exactly. I think we all feel that way. Yeah.
Exactly.
So. Yeah. We're going to take a break for the holidays. The podcast, we're not going to do the podcast on the 25th and the 1st. So we are going to take a total break. We're not going to re-air anything, but we will be back in January. We'll have plenty of new guests and
start our 5th year, y'all.
Yes. And supporter episodes, and more of those are coming up. We just haven't been able to do as many during this like crazy time for both of us.
Oh, we should mention real quick before you do the rest of your update that Sharmyn has said away 2 copies of her
planners, her organizers.
Yes, which is very kind.
Yes.
They're really cool, y'all.
Yeah, and she has, I think, 4 different types. So if you would like to be entered in the drawing, I guess, for that, we'll do a random number generator thing. Send us a text. There'll be a link in the show notes that says, send us a text. Send us a text with your email because she will need to get in touch with you to find out which planner type you want. Don't forget to do that. And then I just had 2 things I was going to mention. The Book Funnel blog has a new post about they've come up with universal book links, which this is the iterated and optimized book link because it has Shopify links and you can do links to like an indie bookstore. You can do
Cool.
Yeah, all kinds of stuff. So I've been playing around with it and I'll put the URL in the show notes if you want to take a look. And you can even make them like jamiealbright.com/whatever. So you can customize that part.
Cool.
Haven't done that, but that's in there. And then I also wanted to mention, I listened to a podcast, a marketing podcast that I think people would be interested in. And it's not in the writing and publishing world. It's a podcast about podcasting. They said most people know how to market online. You can find plenty of information on marketing online, but at in-person marketing or kind of guerrilla marketing tactics that people maybe have trouble coming up with ideas. And this one, they invited their listeners to send them a message, say what kind of podcast they had, and they would come up with marketing ideas for them for the real world, like how, especially people who are new, like how to get your first 100 listeners. And it was so interesting. And there were only 1 or 2 people who were book or publishing related, but so many of the ideas could be applied to writing and publishing. Cool. Yeah. And it was just a different way to think about marketing because we do focus a lot on ads and, just things that are online. And this was like ideas on how to find your people in the real world and how to get in touch with them. So I'll put a link to that. It was called 25 Creative Podcast Marketing Ideas That Will Grow Your Audience. So I think it could be interesting to our listeners. I like finding things that are not in the publishing world and applying them to what we're doing.
You're really good at that. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
So that's all I got.
Okay. Well, kids are losing their mind outside my door. So it's probably time to get on with Sharmyn.
Here is Sharmyn. Today, we are really happy to have Sharmyn McGraw with us. Hi, Sharmyn. How are you?
Hi, guys. I'm good. How are you?
We are wonderful. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to get to meet you guys.
Let me read your bio, and then we'll get going with the questions. Growing up with dyslexia, Sharmyn feared writing so much as a Post-it note if she thought someone else would read it. But she'll never forget the day the health editor from Women's Day magazine phoned and said, "We'd like to buy your story about having Cushing's disease, which is a hormonal disease caused by a pituitary brain tumor." That's the day her dream of being a published writer and her desire to help others was bigger than her fear of letting anyone read her writings.
Thank you. Yeah. That was really a pivotal moment in my life.
Yeah. And so tell us how you got into writing then after that.
Well, after that, because I had Cushing's disease and it's a pituitary tumor, and I had been misdiagnosed for many, many years. And I was very, very sick by the time I got the diagnoses. So when I finally got the diagnoses and I finally started getting my life back, I knew that I had to do more. I couldn't let this disease just get pushed by the wayside. And I had a lot of knowledge and I was working with top neurosurgeons and neuroendocrinologists. So I had connections that other patients wouldn't have. And they took an interest in me and saw my potential in helping other patients and all the knowledge that I had, and I had researched and stuff. So I thought, I can't let the fear of writing hold, this is way too important. And so what I did is I took a class. I remember I was so scared, but I took a little class at like a little college, just one of those adult learning classes. And it was on writing articles for magazines. And there was only about 3 of us in the whole class. And I think 2 dropped out, And so my teacher was forced to take an interest in me, but she actually really loved the topic because she saw my passion. So she helped me write. We wrote 13 query letters and sent them out. And I'm thinking, I know how I'm going to hopefully they'll just buy my story and I don't have to write it. But then I went to this spiritual center that I remember Reverend Michael going, if you want something and you really have a passion for it, just claim it. It's yours. Just if you're something, be it, and I'm like, okay. So whatever. I had just lived through a really bad brain tumor. So I was taking chances. I didn't, right and left. We sent out 13 query letters and I get a call from Donna Bean, at the time, Woman's Day health editor. And she's like, I remember I was driving in the car and she goes, hi, Sharmyn, we want to buy your story. Have you sold it yet? And I'm thinking, not yet. And I'm thinking, because I had gotten like 12 rejection letters. And she goes, well, we want to buy it. And, we'll have one of our staff writers meet with you. And I go, well, I'm a writer. Can I write it? And I remember my heart. I was like, what the heck?
Where did that come from?
Where the heck did that come from? And she goes, well, you know what? I think you'll write it better than we will. So yeah, if you need any help, I'll help you. But yeah, let's have you write it. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know how to write this. And it was 2,500 words. It wasn't just like, 700 words or anything like that. So I did it because I had such a passion for the topic. I think that just overrode everything. And I remember I had a deadline. I was thinking, I don't know about deadlines. I don't know. I barely knew how to use Word. I was using Word Perfect for years, writing it.
Right.
I'm like yelling at everybody because I didn't know how to do any of that. And, at that time, there wasn't Grammarly, there wasn't Pro Writing Aid. It was just me and a friend looking it over. So I finished it and I sent it over on my deadline. And the editor wrote back and she said, this is perfect. I just have a few things for you. And she just put a couple things like elaborate on this or define this a little bit, sent those back. And she goes, you did as well as any of my seasons right. It seemed.
Oh, that's great. Wow.
I was shocked. And from there, that went out. I got paid $1 a word. I mean, it was great. And I thought, this is fun. And then a magazine in the UK, a European magazine, contacted me from that story and asked me to write just 750 words for them. But I said, I was like brave all of a sudden. I'm like, I said, well, that's not really going to be good enough for the story. Your readers really deserve more. And so they go, okay, you can have 1,800 words and a full spread. And I'm like, oh, okay.
You're really good at negotiating on the fly, it sounds like.
I don't know where it came from, but all I know is it really paid off because once I started really getting those stories out, I started getting approached by the media and I was really doing a lot to help patients. And my 25 years of advocate work really skyrocketed. And the amazing thing that it really gave to me was how important words are, how important getting stories to people are. And I can tell you when that first article went out from Women's Day, it went out to over about 8 to 10 million people. And to this day, every once in a while, I will still have someone contact me and go, I carried your article around in my purse for 2 years to give to a friend that I thought had Cushing's. And they did. I mean, I got so many stories like that I knew I had to do more like that, Right. So then I did 25 years of advocate work and I would write, I started reading like how do doctors write, I just started self-teaching myself. But my goal was always to write mysteries because when I was young and growing up with dyslexia, Nancy Drew was the only stories I could really focus on. Right. And with dyslexia, if you like a topic, you can read it. If you don't, you got a hard time. If it's not your interest, you don't do well. But I liked mysteries. And I grew up with a little kid watching black and white movies, Sherlock Holmes, Abbott and Costello, and in the haunted mansions. And so that really was where my passion was. So as I grew as a writer and as an advocate and everything, I finally thought to myself, like later on, a few years ago, I want to write my stories as well. Like, I don't want to just write nonfiction and,
Yeah.
articles and things like that. So I thought, oh, I want to be a life coach. I change my mind every 5 minutes. Like people change their socks. I'm changing like, oh, I'm going to do that. Oh, because when you're creative, you just have too many ideas. Focusing that was so hard.
Yep.
So, all of a sudden while I was being a patient advocate, I wanted to be a life coach because I liked, I was coaching all these patients and doctors and, teaching and educating. So then I thought, oh, make a great life coach. So I take that course. So then I realized, I don't like this. It's not my thing. People have way too many problems. They need a professional therapist, not just me. This is way beyond my capabilities. I don't have the patience. So then, but it came up with a story for my first series, and that was I came up with all the time: dying to date, dying to marry, dying to divorce, dying to love. It was the dying series.
Mm-hmm.
So from there, my character is a relationship expert that never picked the right guy for herself, or never does. Well, she eventually does, but now down the line. But it was because I could see behind the scenes as a coach and everything. And what I was realizing, like I was meeting all these people that were therapists and coaches and going to these seminars, and behind the scenes, everybody was just as messed up as the other person.
Right.
They were just a better teacher.
Yeah.
So my relationship expert, she gets herself in situations where, of course, she has to solve murders and mysteries and all that.
I love that your experience as a life coach made you want to kill people. Yeah.
I'm telling you, I know. Listen, when I first started, I was doing the online dating, and I'm still single, happily not doing online dating, but I had a goal, and I went out with like 100 guys. If it was just coffee or talk, whatever. And then I realized, oh my God, this is an electronic masquerade. People behind that text, you have to remember, are electronic masquerade. So that really started me thinking. Of course, I'm always thinking everybody's a serial killer. I'm like you guys, I know true crime. Like, I'm thinking, what is wrong with me where I relax watching true crime? Like,
It's great for a mystery, though. Sounds like it's a great background.
It's a great background. And I like humor in it. And I know there's nothing funny about murder, that's for sure. But in my stories, I like to relieve with humor. So I get both heart and humor. But one thing that I wanted to do is, like, each book have at least a touch. I'm not throwing it in someone's face, but at least a touch of something that is meaningful to me. Like book one, it's abuse, a little bit of that kind of thing, not thrown in your face, but it just show a little side of that for awareness. And then the second book is human trafficking. And again, it's not, the whole book is not on that, and it's not depressing, but I like that, to be able to feel that I'm still giving a little bit more than just a comedy.
Yeah, it has a little more depth.
Yeah.
What is your definition of success?
For me, I was thinking about this. Financial for a lot of people is success, and it's not for me. I mean, look, we all want to make money. We have to make a living, and all of that, and we all work hard for that. But for me, more my personal success is, can I look at myself and be proud of myself? Am I living a good quality of life for myself, my family, my friends, and my community? So that's really what I feel is success for me. And I hope that when I can translate that a little bit into my characters, that, there's a lot of, in the mystery world, as you know, like the detective will have a drinking problem or a drug problem, or or there's something that, and I get it, because I grew up in a home full of alcoholics, God love them, and most of them are sober now. But sometimes that's not a relief for me to read a whole book that this person just struggles. So, for me, success is, I want to make sure that my characters are damaged in the way that can be fixed, but not so damaged that it's hard to read, kind of thing. So I hope that, like, my personal success translates into my writing. And so far, I've been really lucky, even though I don't have a ton of books out, but book one has done really good.
That's great. That
That
is
is
so
excellent.
great. That is
Yeah.
great. Well, what do you wish you'd known about writing and craft when you started?
Oh gosh, this is so funny because, and I'm sure a lot of people think this, but I was a member of a writers group and I am a long time ago. I didn't know anything about writing. And what little I knew, I taught myself. I read a book, but what I thought in my mind was that all authors are these brilliant literary academia. And I was just sure that they were turning into their publishers these perfect manuscripts.
Yes,
And I could never, ever do that, And then I learned, oh, that's not true.
That's not true. It's very far from the truth, actually.
Thank goodness, right?
Yes. What do you wish you'd known about marketing?
Marketing is tricky. And I know every podcast anybody ever listens to, it's the same thing like, I hate marketing. Well, we all hate marketing, but we all have to learn marketing,
Right.
And I'm in sales. So, and I was a graphic artist when I was in college and stuff, and I had to learn marketing for product ads and stuff like that. But things have changed so much. I've really studied hard. Like I've learned from self-publishing formula. I'm taking ads for authors. Dave Chesson. I learned from Dave Chesson, Kindlepreneur. I've got Publisher Rocket to try to learn keywords. But right when I think I kind of getting it, it's like something changes. And I just wish I wasn't constantly feeling like I'm chasing the next platform or I'm chasing the next trend. So I'm really trying to focus on just know what I know, grow, and always keep my mind open and learn. But I can't do it all. You just cannot do it.
That's very true. And that's a really great reminder that we should all think about, because we do chase. I mean, I did say this morning, I was on a call and I was like, somebody said something about the hamster wheel. And I swear over the last 2 weeks, I've heard that phrase about 38 times. I'm like, somebody either needs to break the hamster wheel or build a better one. Because
right.
we need more. If we're going to stay in this, we need more hamster wheels.
Right.
And we need a better one. Yeah.
I mean, it is part of the evil of this business. Obviously, you have to learn to get to your readers, but there's so much out there. And I really see now, like I'm an idea person. And I'm Jamie. I got to tell you, when I heard you explain this too, I was like, oh my God, that's me. If I talk about an idea ahead of time, I don't do it. In my head, it's done. And I'm telling you, I think like a lot of things like with marketing or just trying to figure out like what you put on your web, your social media. I mean, I don't even know anymore like what I've actually done and what I'm thinking of doing, and if any of it works.
Or I dreamed about.
Dreamt about it.
Yeah. I had that happen the other day. I was like, oh, well, I've already done that. I was like, no, I didn't. I dreamed that I did it.
Where the heck did I see that? Or I think, who told me that? And then someone goes, I think you told me that. I'm like, I did.
I'm brilliant.
Marketing might be that thing that we just constantly have to just keep reevaluating.
Yeah, I think that's true.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Now, I have done well, though, lately on written word media, doing email blast. So I did a few before with my book, but this one I did through written word media and I never used them before. Right. And my book's free, just so everybody knows it's perma-free, but I got so many downloads. I've got over 8,000 downloads. But what was even better about that was I've gotten over 60 from that one I thought was great. I mean, because it was hard. It's hard to get reviews.
Yeah, it is. And a lot of it is just volume. You've just got to get your book in lots of people's hands, and eventually those numbers will come up. If you can find a place where you have readers who are interested, that's fantastic.
Yeah, now I've had my book downloaded in over 76 countries. That's so fun.
Well, let's talk about your dyslexia real quick. Like, how did you overcome that? And what advice do you have for our listeners who may be struggling as well.
Yeah, I would love, I know a lot of young kids, like a lot of mothers will contact me and say, oh, my son, I think he has dyslexia, or my daughter struggles with it. And now there's a lot more information out there, because when I had it, nobody knew. I'm old, I'm 62.
Yeah.
And in those days, we didn't know a lot. And I started college with a fourth grade level of English and grammar. I didn't know what was wrong. I just couldn't grasp it. And people don't quite understand, because there's a variety of different levels of dyslexia. And so someone might be good at one thing, but not another. I'm not good at grammar. Like I can't spell a word sometimes. It doesn't come to me. It could be as simple as I can't see the problem, and so what I do is I did take a course on like different things that helped with it. And it's not exactly what you think. Like I had to do these exercises where I focused my brain, and they were more physical activities than reading or something. But for me, what I've done now, I use tools. I mean, the best thing I can do is Pro Writing Aid. It's not the end all. I have to have a really good editor, because obviously you have to have a human do part of it, but it has helped so much. What I also do is I have after I write a chapter, I put it in Word and I have it read out loud to me. That helps so much. I can hear it, because then I can hear it, like it might be the right word but spelled wrong, so then you can't catch it.
Yeah, right.
But if it's the wrong word spelled very similar, you can hear it. And so, man, and it also just helps me feel how it's flowing, is my story flowing. So those are really my tricks that have gotten me as far as I've gotten now, because otherwise I can't do it. I couldn't do it, but because I haven't really overcome it, but I've learned to work with tools.
Yeah, you've adapted. Yeah.
So, and now I'm not embarrassed about it. Whereas I'll just say, like, I'm pretty successful in my sales job, and I have really high end clients, like, that are actually smart, that have college degrees and stuff. I'll just tell them when I first meet them, I'll say, please forgive my grammar or thing. I try the best I can, but I'm severely dyslexic, so I can't catch everything.
Yeah.
And so they go, oh, no problem. Nobody has a problem with that.
Right.
Nobody, but I do have one funny. So I'll tell you really quick. One of my biggest typos was I work with one of the top neurosurgeons in the world, right? And he's got a great personality, and he's a good friend of mine. But I was in charge of like sending out a lot, working with him on like patient stuff and all that. So he was getting the Gentle Giant Award for patients that have too much growth hormone. And he was given that from this really great group, Pituitary Network Association. And so I sent out over 900 flyers to patients, and the snail mail, and plus all over the internet. And then I start getting these emails and these texts going, wow, that was a good one. I'm sure it got caught before it went out. And I'm like, what? And I'm
Genital?
thinking, yep. And so finally, like this one doctor, and people are emailing Dr. Kelly and going, wow, I hope you get a standing ovation. And he's like, what? He had no idea. So then I start reading it again, and I don't see it the first time. Then I see it. I wrote, he's getting awarded the Genital Giant Award. Oh my gosh. At this point, I cannot get all of them out of the mail.
No, they're gone. It's like when your book is printed, it's gone.
Exactly. And then it's all over the internet, and I keep taking it down, and people keep putting it back up. But the good news is it was a huge success because of that. Everyone loved it. Everyone thought it was hilarious. And I won $200 entering contest on best typos. So,
that's like the upside of typos.
So there you go.
I do have a question though about like when you were trying to find an editor. I mean, was it difficult to find an editor that would work with you because of your dyslexia?
Yeah, well, yes and no. So yes, because not everybody understands dyslexia.
Yeah.
But one of my best friends, she's a former special ed teacher. And
Oh,
she's a
okay.
writer, and her and I are very close friends. I said, Lillian, this is a big ask,
Yeah.
and she's like, absolutely, I'll do it. Because she already knew me as a friend. And
Right.
I couldn't have someone putting big red marks and telling me it was
Oh,
crazy, or,
no.
it would have
Mhm.
really just devastated me. But
Mhm.
she was so gentle, and things were, done so well. And we agreed on, so, if it really wasn't my voice, if she had to correct something, I just tell her. But really, that didn't happen that much. She did a really good job. I mean, I know in my book, we missed a couple little typos. I've had them pointed
Everybody
out.
does. Yeah.
Yep. And next time, now she's kind of had some health issues, so I'm not going to have her do my next book, and she's fine with that. But I have another friend of mine who's a developmental editor. Her name's Elaine Ash, and she is super at what she does. And I probably couldn't afford her normally, but we've done some exchange. And so that's
Yeah.
something else that you can work with someone, because I never would have thought of that. But I can do artwork, and I've done a couple of her book covers for her clients. And if she needs artwork or anything like that, I do that. And so we've agreed that she's going to edit my next book, and in exchange for the work that we've done together.
Mhm.
But
That's great.
it's not super easy when you have really a different type of writing skill.
Yeah, I think you just have to be persistent though and keep looking. And Joanna Penn says it's like dating. Finding an editor is like you
Right.
try something and then maybe that doesn't work, so then you try somebody else. And
Mhm.
so you just have to keep going.
And I think as your writing evolves, and maybe your style of editor will probably evolve too.
And sometimes what you're writing changes. So like I
Yes.
have a different editor for my historicals than I did for my contemporary cozies, because you need somebody who understands the language and
Yeah.
and all the details that would need to be in there.
And another thing too is my books have language, mature language. And you got to have someone that doesn't offend them.
Yeah.
Right.
And things, you don't want to be disrespectful and go, hey, you want to read my book? And they go, oh, oh,
Yeah.
like but
Like I did with Sarah when she read my book. Yeah.
No, that is not true.
That's not true, I'm sure. Jamie, your books are fantastic. And I don't even read romance,
Oh.
but I read comedy. And when I first got turned on to Jamie's work, I thought, I like her personality so much that I'm going to read her books. And I have enjoyed the ones that I've read so much because I love your comedy, because it's right up my alley. And, there's a little bit of more raciness than in Sarah's, but I love Sarah's books too.
Just depends on what kind of mood you're in, right?
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why there's so many choices out there.
That's right.
There, exactly.
Well, let's talk about your organizers. I don't want to run out of time
Yeah.
before we do that. You sent us some, and they're
Yeah.
beautiful and they're amazing. So how did that happen? And who would they be for? Who would be your ideal person to get one of these?
Because of my dyslexia and the way I look at things, I like color. Like I can always get excited about a project if I've got Post-it notes, highlighters, pens. I mean, anytime I can go to, a stationery store, I'm like a little kid. Most people are going to Nordstrom. I'm going to a stationery store. So learning.
Well, you're a good time.
Boy, girl, listen here. There is
Party on Friday night. Let's go to Staples.
There's nothing boring about this, girl. So when I first started, I was trying everything. Scrivener or this or plotting, not plotting. I am a pantser, and you are not going to change me. And I'm sorry, but I can't do it. I have tried. I can't do it.
Right.
So I'm a pantser. I bought Scrivener. Tried it. It just was, I'd be writing in one spot, like maybe at the, outside or at a coffee shop. Then I didn't go back into Scrivener and fill it all in and make it, and remember what I did. So I thought I'd just put a notepad next to me and I'd write chapter 1, go back, do this. I said he had brown eyes. It's a restaurant's called this. Well, I'd lose that Post-it note, or I would, that notebook is long gone or whatever. So finally I said, oh my God, Sharmyn, you can do this. You do, that you create books all the time on, I have Canva, So I started designing my own organizer. I have a chapter that is at chapters at a glance, because I'm always thinking like, what chapter did I put that in? I don't go scrolling through things. And so I put a whole section on chapters at a glance. So you can just, as you write, this is not like for plotting or anything like this. This is to literally keep track of writing as you go. So you can say, in this chapter, chapter 1 is where the first murder happened, or this or that or whatever. So when you're glancing at it, you can just look at it, or you keep a tally of like different names that you've put, secondary characters or restaurants, or you don't remember those things in book 2, 3, 4. And then there's a section for characters, like what color are their eyes? Did you say they drink red wine or white wine, or, whatever these little details are that you want to remember in book 2, book 3, book 4, or even just in chapter 25 when you wrote it in chapter 22. And I think for me, like I did a section now on some of the revised copies where I show people like how to get the most out of it. Maybe they want to add tabs. Maybe they want to add, and keep track that way too, and add Post-its and different things. It's really a fun book. And I think it kind of motivates me to keep track better.
Right.
And so far, it's helped me so much, because I wrote book 1 so long ago. I don't remember everything.
Yeah.
Easy way to keep track, keep you motivated. And look, you have this keepsake. And if you wanted to do like print pages for maybe your fan club, or, you could take it and use it for marketing as well.
It's kind of a series Bible starter. It's not a series Bible, but it's a series Bible starter.
Yes, exactly. That. Yep. And so I think it's got a few resources. You guys are in my resources because you were one of my first podcasts that I kept learning and learning and learning from.
I'm so glad. That makes us so happy.
So good.
You have the story organizers for writers, then you have one for romance writers, then one for mystery and crime writers, and then another one for cozy mystery writers. How are they each specific?
Yes, they're a little bit different inside, because, mystery writers want an evidence board, or, and cozy mystery. So I've kind of designed the graphics inside to keep you motivated. They're not really prompts that you would see in you see a lot of books like that give you prompts to write from. These are prompts just to keep you organized and in your genre. So, for cozy mysteries, I have more like cats and different fun things. And, and in romance, I do a lot more.
It's the genital giant in your room. It's just a question.
And if not, maybe consider that.
It might be a lost opportunity.
I think there's a lot of potential. And I think, it's not for everybody. Some people stay organized so much differently, but there's a group of us, especially dyslexics, that need a physical book and need to see it and write in it.
Right.
And that really helps. Yeah.
I think people with ADHD, depending on the ADHD, I think that, like, for me, it's super helpful to do that, because I get lost. I mean, I just get lost. I lose the thread. I say that a lot. And so, having something like that can be really helpful.
Yeah, I think there's a need for it, because there's plenty of organizers and planners and stuff if you like to plot.
Yeah.
But if you don't, I haven't seen anything for that. So this is the first thing I've seen like that. So it's very interesting. And I think a new idea that maybe people haven't heard of.
Yeah, they're not real expensive. They're only $14.99, but they're 225 pages, and they're thick.
They're big. They're not little. I don't know what
they're
size.
They're like those big coloring books.
Yes.
I used to love.
I thought about doing only a 9x6, but that really wasn't enough to get good space in it.
Well, since we're talking about organizers, and this will go out getting close to January 2025. So do you have any tips for being organized? Anything that has helped you with your writing and being organized in particular?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm like Jamie. I'm also ADHD, not just dyslexic. Thank you. The triple thread.
I was going to say, what else you got?
Exactly. Exactly. So I believe in tools. Tools help me. So for me to stay organized, what I do is I use publisher rocket. I get keywords a lot ahead of time. And in the journals or the organizers, you can start keeping a track of different keywords. I try to keep track of different authors that I'm maybe on my Ossobots, or I want to keep, and that's all as I'm going.
Yeah.
And I think the more tools you have in your tool belt that actually work for you, are beneficial. And writing something down for me, I got to write it down. I got to write it down. I have so much stuff in my head from just all the stories I'm writing in my head, that I actually have to write some things down that to remember.
And the more books you get going, the more things you have going.
Yeah.
There will be things that I'll think, oh, I had a great idea for that book, but it's gone because I didn't write it down.
Or you write it down and you can't remember where. Like people put it in their phone. I'm like, where in my phone? Or I have notebooks after notebooks somewhere in my house or in my car or somewhere. I don't know where, but they're there. And then someone could write a whole novel with all the stuff that's in those notebooks. But I just don't know where they are. So that's why I thought I got to put it in one book. And I think that's the best thing for me, is to use tools that work for me. And that way I keep organized. And it takes pressure off you, that way.
Yeah. Very good. Very good ideas.
Well, we love to ask everyone this question, but what do you think the best thing you've done to set yourself up for success has been?
I think for me is obviously using the tools that I was talking about. So for me, I had always thought, when I first started learning about writing, and like I said, I wanted to be a life coach, then I wanted to be a full-time writer. I'm going to be a full-time writer. But I realized that, again, I have not made out to be a full-time anything. I'm better at doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this. So I love my job. I have a real job and I love it. Like, I'm not ready to give that up. But in about 8 years, I'm going to retire, hopefully.
Yeah.
And so I started about, a few years ago, building my author business, because when I retire, I'll have more time and I'll have a backlist by then, so I could financially maybe make some money to help in my retirement. So it was never my goal just to quit my job and to be a full-time writer, but it is a process that I've incorporated for my future. And then, I love doing my artwork. I do book covers. I write, I make greeting cards. I paint. I don't want to give that up either, just to be a full-time writer. And I think the pressure for me would be too much. So I think setting myself up for success was really recognizing, and I got to do Becca Sign's strengths class. I know you guys always talk about it. I got to do that, but I know myself well enough that I am best at being diversified.
Yeah.
So I took that off the table. I'm not planning on being a full-time writer right now, or at least for the next few years,
Yeah. But I think that's wise. I think knowing that about yourself, that's so wise. Yeah.
Yeah. Because if you try to do one single thing all day long, every day, you'd probably go crazy.
I'd go nutty. It would feel like I used to feel when I was doing jobs that I didn't like.
Yeah.
And that I had to do it just for money. Yeah. And I don't want that feel. I want writing to be fun. I want it to be something I enjoy. I don't want it to be a job.
Yeah. And we always talk about diversity, like being diversified in your streams of income. And it's okay to be diversified in the types of things you do. Sometimes that's looked down on, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it, especially if it feeds your soul.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think nowadays there's so much competition in writing too. But we're getting more creative in our writing, like with Kickstarter and all these fun selling direct and doing stuff that really there's no limit anymore. Like it used to be so traditional publishers. Oh, you had to do it this way or that way. And we don't have to do it that way anymore. So now we can be super creative. If you want to go to a book fair and sell your books and put them together in a book box and sell them with all these fun goodies. I mean, there's a lot more you can do now.
There's really no limits. Well, tell everyone where they can find about you and your books and your organizers.
Great. Thank you. My website is sharmynmcgraw.com. And so I have links for my organizers, and I have linked to my books. And for the organizers, I'm only on Amazon right now because they're a print version. There's no ebook to it or anything. And so, but my novel, Dying to Date, the first book, is downloaded in 76 countries. You can get in all platforms, and it's free. Okay. Download it and write a review if you'd like.
Okay. Well, that is great. Well, we will have all those links in the show notes, and those will be at wishidknownforwriters.com. And if you want to support the podcast, you can go to that same link /support. So thank you so much for being here and sharing all your information.
Thank you, girls. It's such a pleasure to meet both of you. I've loved you both for so long.
Oh, well, thank you. Now we get to love you. Yeah.
Thank you. And enjoy learning from you both, and all your guests are fantastic.
Thanks. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. All right. Well, y'all have a good week.